What if the person you trusted the most was the architect of your downfall? Leonard Kessler lived by numbers, logic, and loyalty. But behind the carefully curated life he shared with his ambitious wife, a web of deceit waited to destroy him. Betrayed in his marriage, ambushed in his finances, and cornered by those he once called family, Leonard must trade his spreadsheets for a scalpel, dissecting the lies that threatened to ruin him. But in the shadows of betrayal, a more dangerous predator awakens: Leonard himself. This isn't just a story of revenge. It's a story of transformation. Of a man who turns his deepest scars into weapons and orchestrates a takedown so ruthless, it will leave you breathless. Justice isn't served cold, it's served calculated, precise, and personal. Leonard Kessler adjusted his tie in the reflection of the 40th floor glass window, the sprawling skyline of Chicago behind him like a painting. The city was alive, but for Leonard, life had become a meticulous routine of numbers, audits, and investigations. As a senior forensic accountant for the prestigious firm, Kane & Welch, his days were filled with tracing fraud, exposing embezzlement, and restoring justice where deceit reigned. But beyond the clean-cut lines of ledgers and balance sheets, Leonard's personal life appeared, at least to outsiders, just as pristine. His wife Dana, an ambitious marketing executive, painted the perfect image of marital bliss on social media: couples dinners at Michelin-starred restaurants, vacations to Napa Valley, weekends in Aspen. It was all curated, filtered, and staged. But in the quiet moments, Leonard knew something intangible had shifted between them. Tonight, as he prepared for the firm's annual gala, that uneasy feeling gnawed at him again. Dana was running late, a common occurrence in the past months. She always had a meeting, a work trip, or some social engagement. She had become a ghost in their own home, always busy, always elusive. Leonard checked his phone. A message from Dana flashed on the screen. "Running late. Go ahead without me." "Darling," he sighed. Alone again. At the gala, Leonard stood among a sea of suits and gowns, nursing his drink while pretending to engage in hollow conversations. He had become adept at hiding his loneliness behind a professional mask. "Leonard," a familiar voice called out. It was Trey Callahan, Dana's co-worker, the firm's new marketing director. The man exuded the kind of smarmy charm that made Leonard's skin crawl. "Did Dana bail on you again?" Trey joked, his hand too familiar on Leonard's shoulder. "Work trip," Leonard replied curtly. "Such a shame. She's always got the best stories at these things." Leonard smiled politely but made a mental note of Trey's smug grin. Something about his tone felt off. Leonard's instincts, honed from years of sniffing out discrepancies, picked up on the subtleties others missed. But he buried the thought, convincing himself he was overthinking. The following week, Leonard's suspicions grew. Dana's absences became more frequent. She returned home late, often smelling of expensive cologne that wasn't his. She was always distracted, her phone never out of reach, her laughter reserved for texts Leonard never saw. Then the tipping point came on a chilly Wednesday evening. Leonard had finished an early audit and returned home unexpectedly. He climbed the stairs quietly, his briefcase still in hand. The bedroom door was ajar and voices floated from within: Dana's laughter and Trey's voice. Leonard froze. The primal part of him wanted to burst through the door, confront them, unleash the storm he had long repressed. But the professional in him, the man who always collected evidence before making accusations, held back. He withdrew silently, retreating, to his study where he stared at the wall, heart pounding in his ears. The betrayal was no longer a suspicion. It was a fact. But Leonard didn't react immediately. He watched. He gathered proof. He traced financial records, scrutinized Dana's credit card statements, and her emails. What he uncovered chilled him to the bone. Not only was Dana having an affair with Trey, but she had also been siphoning funds from Leonard's personal investment accounts. Small transactions at first, disguised as transfers to joint ventures, consulting services, and charity donations. But they had grown bolder, larger, more brazen. Over $300,000 had been funneled into shell accounts, all linked back to Trey's network. It wasn't just betrayal of love, it was a calculated financial ambush. Leonard realized the depth of the deception. Dana and Trey were planning to ruin him, framing him for financial misconduct, using the very skills he used to destroy others. For the first time in his life, Leonard felt the kind of rage that clouded even the sharpest mind. But rage alone wouldn't win this battle. He had to plan, and his plan would be meticulous. Leonard didn't confront Dana. Instead, he smiled more, played the doting husband, and allowed her and Trey to believe he was still the oblivious fool. In the shadows, Leonard built his case like he would for any corporate fraud investigation. He documented everything: wire transfers, fake invoices, falsified emails. He used encrypted software, ensuring that every move he made left no digital footprint. He even planted subtle traps in their schemes: decoy accounts, false leads, letting them dig their own grave deeper, all while projecting the image of the distracted, overworked husband. Dana and Trey grew bolder. They whispered in corners, disappeared for secret weekends, and flaunted their closeness under Leonard's nose. At company events, they exchanged glances like teenagers at a prom, believing themselves untouchable. Leonard played along, but inside, the quiet storm brewed. He engaged a trusted cyber forensics expert under the guise of an offshore case, ensuring his investigation was impenetrable. He used proxies to uncover Trey's offshore holdings, illegal business dealings, and links to known fraudsters. What he found was explosive. Trey wasn't just a charming marketing executive. He was a con artist with a history of corporate sabotage, bankruptcies, and hidden identities. He had wormed his way into Dana's life, and Leonard's, using seduction and manipulation as tools to build his empire of deceit. Dana was merely his pawn. Leonard's plan accelerated. He meticulously crafted a dossier, complete with forensic evidence, paper trails, audio recordings, and financial transactions. He prepared not just for a personal confrontation, but for a professional annihilation. Then, on a seemingly ordinary Thursday evening, Leonard set his trap. He invited Dana and Trey to a private dinner at their lake house. Dana, ever the actress, accepted eagerly, unaware that this dinner would be their last supper. The table was set, the wine chilled. Dana and Trey arrived, smug and radiant, confident that their plan was nearing fruition. Leonard welcomed them with warmth that masked his cold, calculating heart. To them, this was Leonard's pathetic attempt at salvaging his doomed marriage. To Leonard, this was the moment the curtain would fall. After dinner, as they sipped their wine, Leonard smiled. "I know everything," he said, simply. Dana laughed nervously. "What are you talking about, Len?" "I know about the affair, the stolen money, the fake accounts. I know you planned to frame me." The room fell silent. Trey's mask slipped first. His grin faded into a scowl. "You're bluffing, old man." Leonard's smile widened. "Try me." He tossed a thick folder on the table. Inside were pages of evidence, photographs, account statements, wire transfers, and at the very top, a court summons with both their names. Dana paled. This is, it's over," Leonard finished. But no. Leonard continued softly, almost like a father scolding a child. "I'm not here for vengeance. I'm here for justice." And with that, the authorities entered the room. FBI agents, forensic auditors, and federal marshals. Trey's jaw dropped. Dana screamed. They were both handcuffed on the spot, read their rights as Leonard stood over them, the ghost of the man they once thought weak, now their executioner. But Leonard wasn't done. He had ensured the media would be there too. The next morning, the world watched as Dana and Trey's faces were plastered across headlines. Their crimes laid bare, their reputations annihilated. Leonard Kessler was no longer the quiet, overlooked accountant. He was the architect of their downfall. In the months that followed, Leonard rebuilt his life from the ashes of betrayal. Dana and Trey's trial was the scandal of the year. The evidence Leonard provided ensured their convictions on multiple counts of fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy. Dana was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. Trey, facing a mountain of charges, took a plea deal but still received a decade behind bars. Leonard liquidated the assets he recovered, donated portions to charities that fought white-collar crime, and established scholarships for young forensic accountants. But even as the world hailed him as a hero, Leonard felt hollow inside. The man he was, the naive husband, the quiet professional, was gone. He took a sabbatical from his firm, traveling alone, rediscovering the parts of himself he had long neglected. In the solitude of the Swiss Alps, the streets of Kyoto, and the beaches of Santorini, Leonard found fragments of peace, but there was still a darkness within him, a part of him that enjoyed the hunt, the chess game of deception. He realized that his future lay not in corporate safety, but in exposing the predators that hid behind polished smiles and tailored suits. He opened his own consultancy, Kessler Integrity Group, specializing in high-profile fraud investigations. Clients poured in, governments, corporations, victims seeking justice. Leonard became a legend in the field, but he never forgot the lesson Dana and Trey taught him. Trust is a fragile currency, and even the most perfect illusions can hide the ugliest truths. On the anniversary of the night he exposed them, Leonard stood at the edge of Lake Michigan, the city lights reflecting in the water. He raised a glass to the darkness, not in bitterness, but in gratitude. For it was in the depths of betrayal that he had found his true self, and Leonard Kessler would never be fooled again.